it's remarkable that the two biggest things Scientology promises you will have, or you will get or be able to do.
I think it's something, I've only ever lived in my head, but I think to a certain extent, it's something we are all capable of as human beings, being sucked into some sort of idea that is attached to something good, like we talked about earlier with the incentivization structure, that we go down the rabbit hole, if you will. And there's different things that happen every day in society where we see this. It's just on a whole nother level when it becomes this center like religion in your life, and you're a part of a community that not only encourages you not to talk amongst each other, because that would be very bad, right? To share each other's feelings or whatever, because it's not in their control. But also, they literally teach you that you're separate from the earth and from all these other idiots on this prison planet because they don't know what's really going on in Scientology. That is just like, again, I can't really put myself there, but if I were born into it, of course I'd believe that. I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then at some point, they just slowly boil the frog, like I was saying, and, you tell me, like, Xenu, I might be like, makes sense. Which I really hope, like, when I die, if we get to whatever the afterlife is, if I find out Scientology was right, that's really going to be a bummer. I hope that doesn't happen. That's not going to happen, right?
I don't think you have anything to worry about.
All right, good, good.
It's funny one of the things two of the things that Scientology pretty much promises Scientology will give you is the ability to come back next lifetime with full and total recall of your previous life and lives.
Recall.
Oh yeah, your perfect memory. You just retain everything because basically what would happen is you skip the between lives implant station, so your memory doesn't get wiped.
So did they tell you what to remember from your previous life?
Tell you what to remember?
Yeah.
What do you mean what to remember?
Like, did they? Maybe that's the wrong way to ask it. Did they say, "Oh, you were a Scientologist in a previous life because you're joining as a kid right now, so it'll come to you"?
They're not allowed to tell you what you should remember. It's just heavily implied. But remember, we talked about the between lives implant station. I might not have gone into detail about it, but it is the thing. Like, when you have a near-death experience, like we all do. You see, they say you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. Well, Scientologists believe the light at the end of the tunnel is the implant station. Don't go towards the light. That's where you get your memory wiped by the alien psychiatrist prisoners.
Right.
What is the name of the people that guard a prison? I keep saying imprisoners or captors. I don't know what the right
guards.
Prison guards?
Yeah, I guess
it's
prison
right?
guards, yeah.
Alien psychiatrist prison guards that are manning the implant station. So they believe that with enough Scientology, when you drop your body this lifetime, you'll be able to bypass the implant station and just pick up a new body. So like today you're you, tomorrow you're still you, but in a new baby body. Being like, how do I use these arms and legs and why do I keep shitting myself? But you'll still remember everything.
Even though they wipe you.
No, you skip the implant station. With enough Scientology. That's what they believe.
Oh, but how do they define enough?
They don't. They just convince you that with enough Scientology, you get yourself in good enough shape spiritually and mentally, you can skip the implant station the next time you drop your body.
It's like chasing the magic dragon.
Yeah.
Come on.
So Scientologists end up to a point where they're like, oh no, if I don't either do enough Scientology or if I don't be a good boy or a good girl and I get kicked out of Scientology, God forbid, I'm going to be doomed to an eternity of amnesia because I'll never get enough Scientology to be able to skip the implant station. I'll just continue to be a prisoner on this planet over and over again for the rest of eternity. That's the promise that Scientology gives you. So considering that there's two big things that they promise. That you'll be able to come back next lifetime with full memory of everything that happened this lifetime. And also that you'll get to a point where you can causatively and at will and with full perception, exteriorize from your body. Just
exteriorize.
Have an out-of-body experience. But causatively. Not like, oh, I just was in a car accident and I was looking down upon myself. No, like you could be sitting here and you just leave your body with full perception. So instead of here, I'm here, but my body's here, but I'm here. So I'll be looking at you from over here, but my body's here. Like, honestly, just exteriorization. Fully, stably exterior, at will, and with full perception is something Scientology promises it will eventually give you. No Scientologist has ever accomplished either of these two things.
I was gonna ask you, did you have it happen? I mean, come on.
Not even close. You know how many times I tried trying to like pop myself out of my head? I'm close. I can feel it. I can feel the vibration. As a young little Scientology staff member, one of my biggest ruins, if you will, is, damn it, I've never been exterior. But there are Scientologists who'll tell you that they've gone exterior. And you're like, if L. Ron Hubbard could go exterior, then why did he have to infiltrate all those government buildings? Why couldn't he just pop through the files and read the papers with his spirit eyes?
That's it. That's it. See, there's an explanation there.
And L. Ron Hubbard never came back.
Yeah.
If Scientology was true, and if L. Ron Hubbard wanted everyone on planet Earth to get into Scientology, all he had to do was come back.
That's it.
And it's the one thing every Scientologist is told they will be able to do. That's all he had to do. But instead, they say he went off to Target 2. He went off to another planet.
Or they say where he went.
Target 2. They didn't name the planet.
Okay.
Just Target 2. He didn't want us to know where he was. Don't forward the mail. Their explanation for why L. Ron Hubbard didn't come back is he's off on Target 2, getting Scientology rolling on another planet while we wrap up business on this planet and get at least half the people in the world into Scientology. Where I'm going with all this is it's remarkable that the two biggest things Scientology promises you will have, or you will get or be able to do, should be easily demonstrable if it was real. Mm-hmm. No one's ever done it, and Scientologists are still able to continue to be convinced that this is why they need to stay in Scientology. What could possibly be more important than being able to come back next lifetime without having your memory wiped? What could possibly be more important? What could possibly be more important than actualizing your full true self independent of your body? Like the ultimate spiritual experience, the ultimate spiritual realization. And yet no one's ever done it. No one's ever done it. I have never spoken to a Scientologist who actually convinced me that they even really believed they had gone exterior. Some of them would be like, oh yeah, I went exterior once. I'll be like, really? Tell me about it. And it's very clear.
I was sitting here and then I was over there.
It's very clear, very quick that they're like, well, I sort of felt this way and I felt that way. I'm like, it's not a feeling. You either did it or you didn't. How many fingers am I holding up behind my back? If you can't tell me, then you did not achieve this ability.
Oh my God. Did you ever like talk to your mom about some of these concepts while you were growing up? Like,
Not when
Mom,
I was
I'm trying to go exterior. What the fuck?
No, not when I was
working.
growing up, but after we both were out of Scientology, we
After
tried.
you left.
But she still believes in Scientology, and so she does not like having these kind of conversations.
Wait,
really.
your mom's out of Scientology, but she still believes in it.
Yeah, so she
How
doesn't
does
like
that
David Miscavige. She doesn't like the organization and financially ruining its members and all this kind of stuff. But she still believes in L. Ron Hubbard and the technology of Scientology. Yeah.
So like Xenu and all that?
Yeah, well, she did the OT levels, and she goes, you don't have to believe it. You just have to audit it, and the e-meter tells you that it's true. And I'm kind of like, she's tried to kind of convince me that she didn't really believe it or doesn't really believe it, or you don't have to really believe it. And I'm like, I don't know. It kind of sounds like you don't believe what L. Ron Hubbard said. I don't know. It's weird. A lot of people who've done the OT levels have said to me something along the lines of, you don't really have to believe it. You just have to do it. I'm like, I don't know. Seems like you should believe it.
How deep did she get in OT?
OT 5.
Okay, so she didn't get to Xenu level.
Xenu's OT 3.
He's OT 3. Okay,
Yeah.
so she did get to that.
Yeah.
Do you have a good relationship with your mom today?
It's not excellent. Yeah.
But it's a relationship.
We're in touch.
Okay. That's a new one. Like, you don't really, at least I haven't really from the outside heard of that much, where like people leave but they still believe in some of the concepts. I've really only heard of the ones, and I'm probably naive on this, but I've only heard of the ones where people leave and they're like, oh my God, what the fuck happened to me in there?
So actually, when you were talking to Tony, he mentioned the independent Scientology movement. And what that is people who've left Scientology, the Church of Scientology, but still believe in Scientology, and they practice Scientology outside of the Church of Scientology. So my mom's one of those guys.
So is that like an official?
It's not an official organization.
It's not official at all.
Right. And yeah, those are people who are more like, I guess they might call themselves originalists, because
Protestants to the Catholics, if you will.
pretty much.
Yeah.
They basically say anything that happened in Scientology after L. Ron Hubbard died is bullshit and garbage, and throw that away, and we're going to stick with the stuff that was the way it was at the point L. Ron Hubbard died, and that was the good stuff.
Interesting.
And yet none of these people have achieved exteriorization. No one's ever come back no one's ever come back and been able to convincingly discuss their past life experiences in a way that was like, oh, this is for real?
Yeah.
So, yeah. One of the things that happens with people who are born into Scientology, and it's hard for a parent to accept that they've actually done anything harmful to their child by bringing them into Scientology.
Yeah.
It really is. And that has been a source of conflict between my mom and I. Not that I'm so dedicated to like shoving her face in the fact that bad things were done, but that she gets so defensive about the fact that anything bad ever was done at all. Or the one I like the best is, you guys wanted to do it. It's like, no, 12-year-olds want to play baseball and play football. Yeah. We basically just decided that if we had to do this thing, we might as well, get good at it.
That's I can't imagine that. That's a really tough place to be, because obviously, like, there's a part of her, even if she still believes maybe in some of the concepts or whatever, it seems to me like there is a subconscious part of her that's like, oh shit,
yeah,
this is bad. But like, she obviously loves her kids and everything, and she doesn't want their lives to be more maybe ruined by this than it already was. And so maybe like the trauma of like reliving that and realizing like, oh shit, I was the bridge to this, to get them into this, that's probably really hard for her to even acknowledge, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Well, it seems to be that way. And what makes the conversation a little more complex is like, I've in many ways turned out rather well, and I'm a pretty successful guy. I don't seem like I'm some horribly damaged person, and so it's kind of like it's easy for my mom to see the things that have gone well for me in life and go, well, that's because I got you into Scientology. So what do you have to complain about? Mm. And you go, well, how do I argue with that, considering it's the only path I traveled?
Yes.
It's a complicated thing for parents of kids who are in Scientology as kids to grapple with. I mean, there's a lot of people in my shoes who have difficult relationships with their parents, specifically because of the subject of Scientology.
I can imagine, for sure. But when we were going off into some things about Scientology itself and whatever, but within your story, the last part we were at was when you were like 15 to 18, something like that, running the course room in the Philly Scientology location.
Yeah.
So what came after that?
So when I was just before I turned 18, I was getting pretty disillusioned, not with Scientology itself, but with life at the Philadelphia org. It was just terrible. The people there, I was not having fun at all. Mm. And it got to the point where it was like, I'd just rather do anything other than this. So me and my brother moved to Hollywood, and I mentioned those freeloader debts earlier, right? So,
I think so,
where if you work for Scientology and you're on one of the contracts and you don't fulfill the contract, you owe them money for everything you did in Scientology. So I was 17 years old. I was given a bill for $100,000.
$100,000 of all the hours I worked for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, you owe us for that.
Exactly.
That's fucking nuts.
And so, of course, I never had any intention of paying that because it was just unrealistic.
Of course.
But mentally, I still consider myself a Scientologist. So for a couple years, we moved out to Hollywood and just kind of lived a fun life for a couple years.
Outside.
No association with Scientology whatsoever. And then eventually it just got to a point where I was like, is this sustainable? Like, am I really going to – because I still consider myself a Scientologist. I was like, I just didn't see where the path was going. I didn't see the path back. I wasn't able to pay the freeloader debt.
What were you doing for work?
Some background work on some TVs and movies and stuff like that. Signed up with Central Casting, and it was I had a great time. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So you're making money for yourself at least.
I was absolutely totally supporting myself. But eventually, I was like, okay, I actually have to go back to Philadelphia and finish my contract. And so that's in order for me not to have this freeloader debt, I actually have to go back to Philadelphia and finish like the last 2 years I have on my contract.
Yeah, but were they like knocking on your door trying to come find you? Like, hey, you owe us this money?
No, but I still considered myself a Scientologist.
Wow.
And
Is
I
that
was-
strong?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I've sort of been in denial that this thing's ever going to get resolved in any way. And I guess I have to go back and finish those 2 years. So I did. I finished those 2 years, went back to Philadelphia. At that point, somewhere in there, my mom finally came back from Clearwater, having finished her training, because she actually did the auditor training. And then when my staff contract was up, some kids that I had grown up with in the Philly org, but had then gone off and joined the Sea Org and become some high-level Sea Org executives, they came back to town for a wedding of one of their family members, and sort of was like, they sort of got their hooks into me and was like, hey, remember how badly you used to want to join the Sea Org? I was like, yeah. And they're like, we'll get you replaced and we'll bring you to LA. You can join the Sea Org right now. And within like 2 weeks, I was in LA in the Sea Org. And I was 22 years old at that point. And and so I was working there on L. Ron Hubbard Way in Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, and I think is it Vermont is like, yeah. And so then I was in the Sea Org for 4 years, and that was the next chapter of the story.
4 years in the Sea Org.
4 years in the Sea
What
Org.
does that look like?
It was actually much easier than being in Philadelphia because all you have to do is focus on your job. So for me, comparing my 4 years in the Sea Org to all the time I spent at the Philly org, it was actually it was easier to just be there and focus. But again, it eventually got to the point where it was equally as unfulfilling. Like there's this culture in Scientology organizations where they're constantly on witch hunts, trying to find who they can blame for the fact that there aren't enough people joining Scientology and going up the levels.
I wonder why.
People are always just fighting and finger pointing and fault finding, and eventually I was like, I don't need you guys need me more than I need you. I can literally go and do whatever I want. Okay, now Sea Org members can only marry other Sea Org members. And
Oh, yeah, that's right.
right. So I met, I call her my wife because we're not divorced yet, but we're going to be divorced soon. While I was in the Sea Org, I met my wife, Heather, and she had been in the Sea Org for like 14 years.
Whoa.
She was also born and raised in Scientology.
Whoa.
And
How young was she when she got in?
Well, she was born in.
Yeah, but how young was she when she got into the Sea Org?
I think 16.
Wow.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So she was a little older than you.
She is older than me.
Right.
She is 7 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. And because you're also not allowed to have children in the Sea Org, if you get pregnant, you have to either leave or get an abortion, and they very much pressure you to try to convince you to get an abortion. But we both knew that we didn't want to be there anymore, and we knew that the easiest way to get out was to get pregnant. So that's what we did.
Whoa.
And that was in 2006, and that was sort of our easy way out of the Sea Org, because I mean they don't want anyone walking around pregnant.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I think I was talking with Tony about this. It's crazy to me that like a religion that wants to grow and continue the organization, whatever, who happily takes on families with kids coming in who are born into it, doesn't want their own members who are marrying each other by rule
Yeah.
to have more. I mean, I guess I'm glad they're not bringing more kids into it, but that seemed like really ass backwards logic to me.
It's true. One of the easiest ways to understand that aspect of it would be like the Catholic clergy, where like Catholics have lots of kids, but the clergy don't. The clergy, like they have like abstinence, like they're not supposed to even.
Yeah, I
have
mean, like
relations,
half
right?
of them are gay, though.
I know.
You know?
But that's an example where
Just saying.
they want their public members to have kids.
Yeah.
But the people who've dedicated their lives to work for the church, they
It
don't
makes
want
sense.
those people having kids.
It makes sense.
Now, the funny thing about Scientology is it's so expensive to do Scientology. The Scientologists don't have a lot of kids. They just actually don't.
Oh, that's right.
Big families are not a thing in Scientology. It's totally different than like Mormonism or even Catholic families. Like, you hear about 10, 11, 12 kids. Scientology, it's not like that.
How expensive was it a year for you when you were in the Sea Org?
Oh, no, in the Sea Org, you don't pay for anything.
You don't pay anything. Before that, when you were
When you're a staff member, you don't pay for anything.
Still nothing.
Right.
So it's only the people who are members that don't necessarily work for it.
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't experience that as much.
I did not experience that at all.
Yeah.
And it's not an annual fee. It's a pay to play thing.
But when you were a kid, like your mom had to experience that paying for you, right?
She was on staff.
Oh, so her kids she didn't have to pay for anything.
Oh, we
for
might
her
have done the
kids.
kids courses that are like $100.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
you really didn't get that, but a lot of people within Scientology or members do, and they pay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Leah Remini was like paying hundreds of thousands of dollars at one point.
I mean, Leah over her lifetime as a public Scientologist probably gave over $5 million, somewhere in that vicinity.
Could she go get that back?
No,
Oh my god.
no.
Yeah, that part's wild to me. So you get pregnant
Yeah.
4 years in. I mean, did you go like? Is there like a main office you go to and say, "I'd like to report a pregnancy"? Like, how does it go down?
Literally, well, every Scientology organization has its one person who's like over the ethics, personnel matters, ethics matters, called the Director of Inspections and Reports, or the Dorey. Went to the Dorey after morning muster, and I said, Heather's pregnant, and we're not getting an abortion.
Just like that.
Yep.
And what'd they say?
They said, okay, I'll put you on the leaving the Sea Org routing form.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now, does that affect backlash within the organization though? Because like now you've dropped out of the Sea Org. Like,
You get a freeloader bill. You get a new freeloader bill.
Oh, another one.
Yeah.
How big's this one?
I'd only been in for 4 years, and it was basically between the two of us at that point, it was about $100,000, but because she'd been in for so long, but we negotiated it down to $40,000.
Oh, how does that work? A little negotiation with Scientology?
Yeah, you
You
know.
and Miscavige in a
They're
back
like,
room.
hey, this
saying,
week, you buy now, we'll give you a 50% credit. You know? They'd be like, hey, if we review this, and we knock this off, and we give you a credit for this, can you pay this week before Thursday?
Oh my god. It's like a Scientology timeshare. So you guys paid like a $40,000 bill,
Yeah.
like up front.
Yeah, I had before I joined the Sea Org, I had bought a house up in North Philly in Olney, and because so many of the Philadelphia staff members were living there, I actually was allowed to keep that house the whole time I was in the Sea Org. So by the time I left 4 years later, I had a bunch of equity in that house, but I took out a line of credit and paid the $40,000.
You pay that in cash or check?
Yeah, cash, pennies.
Oh my God. You just walk in with a bag, count it, fuckers. Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.